Attention, visitors of the cosmic corner of the internet, it is happening. Everybody stay calm, do not panic, it is happening. And by it, I mean that this is the week that Saturn shifts into Aries, where it remains until 2028. It is happening. Everybody stay calm, do not panic. And this shift is significant because it does mark a passing of the torch. Since March 2023, we have been running in the Saturn and Pisces race, so to speak, which has collective implications based on Saturn's journey through Pisces, as well as individual implications within our charts. See, wherever Saturn is transiting is a territory of life that the universe is making us do the work and run the race. And we may be arriving to this particular finish line, or at least the part in the race where there is a shift of responsibility, a shift of focus, very haggard. You may feel like Saturn and Pisces has made you run ragged, especially when you contemplate the themes that could have emerged within your life with Saturn in Pisces. When you look at the Pisces territory of your chart, it likely is a territory that has gone through it a little bit. And you might be at the end of your rope here, or at least the end of your energy there, arriving to this finish line sweaty and exhausted, but wiser, but stronger. That's the key about Saturn, is that yes, it makes us do the work. It makes us run the race, so to speak. And there's no shortcuts when it comes to this sort of race. Saturn energy makes us learn the lesson. And now Saturn is passing the torch from Pisces to Aries. And so, yes, there is a bit of a conclusion or a graduation of your Saturn and Pisces story, which has been alive since March 2023. But now it's time to run the race of Saturn and Aries. And Aries quite likes to win, but Saturn energy really makes us do the work in order to deserve that win, where it's going to require endurance. Like, we cannot burn ourselves out in the first couple yards of the relay race. Like, we have to be able to sustain the spark, sustain our energy in order to make it to the finish line. We also can't cut corners. No matter how much we want to win or we want to be at the finish line now, we have to do it the Saturn way, which is not exactly Aries' way of wanting to do things. This is a Mars ruled sign that is now having to run a Saturn race. And so there's a passing of a torch around, yes, appreciating the race that you have run or the work that you have done in Saturn and Pisces since March 2023, but locking in, because Saturn in Aries requires your participation. And you have run a bit of this race so far. I do want to reflect that last year in 2025, from late May to early September, we did get a taste of Saturn and Aries. So as you contemplate that within your life, you may see, ooh, that's where the universe is having me work, is having me refine, is having me streamline, is telling me no, is restricting me, is delaying me. That journey officially ignites and initiates this week. And we're locking in. This is a race we're running until April 2028. But the cosmos is interesting because while we have one planet that is losing dignity, Saturn is in its fall in Aries, hence why the energies are so mismatched. We have a planet gaining dignity, or at least rising up to position of royalty, position of exaltation. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, pleasure, ascends into Pisces. That's the best way I could describe it. It elevates into Pisces because these energies are very congruent. Venus loves to be in this particular domain. In the week of February 9th to February 15th, Saturn is getting quite unhappy. Venus is getting quite happy. And all of us are getting magical, as we do every single week. I will guide you through everything that you need to know about this astrology, both thematically as well as day by day, how it is that you can win this Saturn and Aries race, how you can benefit from this goddess-like influence of Venus and Pisces. We will break it all down. But first, goddess-like is the best way that I could describe how I feel when I drink my beverage today in the Cosmic Cafe. Truly, this beverage makes me want to levitate. It is just simply divine. It is a strawberry white chocolate mocha in the spirit of Valentine's Day this week. If anybody celebrates, if it happens to be anybody else's favorite holiday, I love Valentine's Day. I love that we have an exalted Venus for Valentine's Day. When Venus is feeling good, when she's being treated like royalty, when she is ascending and elevating, a lot of times we can feel more of this Venusian flow of energy within our world. So yes, we are are embarking on a race. And in typical Saturn fashion, it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. But at least with Venus entering exaltation, there is an ask where every couple miles or so to dip off the track and indulge in a delicious strawberry white chocolate mocha. And that's what makes our Saturn work more sustainable in those moments that we are sweaty and exhausted. Saturn Pisces may have left a lot of us feeling soul tired, like exhausted to our soul, to our spirit. Some of you could have more major Saturn Pisces stories. Some of you, this could have been your Saturn return. You could have had Saturn and Pisces aspect a lot of your chart. That may be the case for Saturn and Aries. Like certainly some races are a little bit easier, but Saturn is always Saturning somewhere. So yes, we are getting some relief in the Pisces territory of our chart, but now another race begins. The work never stops. And it is a good thing within this experience to have healthy levels of challenge. Truly, it's good to strive for more, to reach for more, to initiate new chapters within our journey. This is a good thing. This is a constant within this experience. If we stop learning and trying and doing, we start dying. Not to be morbid here, but truly, a lot of times we learn a lot about ourselves and a lot about life altogether through some of our trials and tribulations. And now a new journey is underway. And just because there is a territory of our life that is being Saturn, like Saturn's always Saturning somewhere, that doesn't mean that it needs to all be Saturn. Like we need some Venusian moments to make all the Saturn worth it a lot of times. So let me know how you're celebrating Venus in exaltation. If you're making a strawberry white mocha, I am so incredibly grateful. And honestly, Magic Monday was saved because I really wanted to serve up something delightful and Valentine's Day adjacent here in the Cosmic Café. And I was dismayed to realize that I did not have strawberry syrup. I did not have strawberries. I did not have the time in my schedule to go out and secure those items. And I made like an offhand comment about it. And my Valentine literally saved the day, brought me strawberry syrup, strawberry sauce, strawberry puree, and strawberries just to cover all bases. Honestly, that's my love language, is you saving my show. Because truly, this is the great love of my life. And I think when we talk about love and when we talk about Valentine's Day, when we talk about Venus exalted, I think we do such a disservice when we focus so singularly on romantic love. Like consider that Valentine's Day falls during Aquarius season, the sign of friendship, the sign of community, the signs of friends. I genuinely feel like my friends are my soulmates. My friends are loves of my life. I have Venus and Pisces within my chart. Pisces is a very spiritual, ethereal, otherworldly sign. And like with Venus and Pisces, wanting that otherworldly, spiritual, unconditional love in love. And this placement has gotten me into trouble trying to fulfill that need through romantic love. Like really, when we think of just the boundless spiritual nature of Pisces, no matter how amazing any one person on this planet is, ultimately they are a human. And like when it comes to Pisces energy, it's very unconditional. It's very selfless. It's very devoted. And it's not to say that I don't pour love into humans on this planet, but not one human is worthy of worshiping or utterly devoting my life to. And so for me, the great love of my life is what I do here. Like, I just love it. It makes me feel connected to something that is bigger than myself. And it's a way to kind of pour myself into where I don't get myself into trouble, where sometimes Venus and Pisces has led me before. So a love language for me is when people in my life do certain things to help me as it relates to my show, as it relates to my business. Like it just means so much because truly this is something that I find so much meaning and calling and really love in. Like I really love what I do. And so that's how I go into Valentine's Day every single year, is just really honoring love in all of its different formats, platonic love and parasocial love and my love for nature and my love for animals. You know, a lot of times this particular holiday, people can feel not loved or very lonely because their life doesn't look like what we're told Valentine's Day is about. But the more that we focus on that, the more that we miss out on how love is all around us and more importantly within us. And with the Venus in Pisces, my encouragement would be like really plugging into spiritual divine love, because the more that you plug into that, the more nourished that you feel and the more you're able to pour that out to everyone around you. So I'm wishing you all a happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you all have a delightful Valentine's Day drink. Let me know what you have made below. If your Valentine had to save the day and give you a crucial drink ingredient, let me know. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Vibe Check of the Week. Okay, I had to relight one of the candles that went out, and without further ado, we are ready to get into Vibe Check of the Week. So if you are new here to Magic Monday, Vibe Check of the Week is a segment here on the show where we compare all of the astrology that we will experience this week to a real life scenario. It's not me saying that this exact situation will play out, but when you tune into the theme, the dynamics, the emotions, the vibe, you may see similar ones surface within your world and within your week. And so this week's vibe check is the following. We will say that you are on one of the apps. Okay, you're on one of the dating apps. You know, it's Aquarius season, and we have a Uranus aspect this week. Felt only right to integrate some technology into it. But we will say that you end up matching and meeting with someone on one of the apps, and right away, the chemistry is chemistrying, the vibes are vibing, Venus is Venusing, and you already feel your heart sink because you're like, oh no, not again. See, you in the vibe check this week have a tendency to fall very fast and fall very hard. For individuals, you have this tendency to throw caution to the wind and just morph into the person that you're dating's whole life. Like you have moved in with people after a month, you've gotten engaged after 2 months. Like you are just someone where you love, you love being in love. And when you feel that Cupid arrow pierce you, anything that you were working on, anything that you were striving for or building just gets thrown to the side with abandon, as your utter focus goes to your beloved, whoever that has been. And admittedly, that has been quite a few people. And we will say that your heart sinks upon this very date because you've seen this film before and you did not particularly like the ending. And you can see this choice point where there is an opportunity here for you to utterly lose yourself in this connection, to merge fully and totally with this person. Like you can feel that tendency as the date goes on and the vibes are mutual. And both of you are talking about things that are likely a bit inappropriate as it relates to first date around this person's like, I could see myself marrying you. You're asking about baby names. It's all going very fast. And that has been a tendency of yours because when you like someone, you really, really like someone. So much so that you tend to lose yourself in the name of loving another. And even though you feel this irresistible pull to this person and to this connection, you have the gift of experience. See, with Saturn and Pisces coming to a close, Saturn does not leave a sign or complete a chunk of the race without bestowing some gifts. And sometimes those gifts are experience. Sometimes those gifts are wisdom, where you're not the same person that you were the first go around merging and blending into a connection, losing yourself entirely. You've dealt with the fallout of those sort of love affairs, having to extricate your identity from someone who you lost yourself with scrambling to find housing, scrambling to reconnect with your friends, scrambling to find another job because you just got completely pulled into the whirlpool of these other individuals. You've dealt with the fallout. You've seen it firsthand where this sort of energy can go. And you feel the temptation here to just see if it's different this time. But what you've gone through, being at the tail end of Saturn and Pisces, you're like, no, this is a choice point and I'm making a different decision. But you know, love is in the air. Okay, Venus is exalted. So you decide to keep dating the person, but you are going into it striving to be mindful, striving to slow things down, striving to keep your feet on the earth. You know, Mercury and Venus are in Pisces. Admittedly, your head is in the clouds, but you're just striving for some semblance of grounding within your life just to avoid what you've lived. And it becomes increasingly clear to you because you've slowed things down. It becomes clearer and clearer every time you see this person, every time you talk to this person, that they don't like you. They like who they think you are. And you recognize that there is an energy where they're projecting you as this fantasy, and you're realizing that's not me. And they keep saying all the things like, you're a goddess, you're exactly what I've been looking for, and you're the love of my life, you're my dream girl, my dream boy, what have you. But you're realizing, like, the more that you are drawing out this courting process, the more you're realizing you don't know anything about me. Like, you are recognizing, you're staying very mindful, and you're realizing this person is projecting you to be some sort of fantasy, to fill some sort of role, to fit some sort of mold, which has been the downfall of those other love relationships where you are somebody who can really sense what someone wants you to be and play into that role, so much so that you lose who it is that you are. And you strive within these states to stay very anchored in who it is that you are around. Am I having fun? Is this my preference? Am I going to get home in time in order to do what it is that I need to do? And you're realizing that there's just a couple of red flags where before, with your rose-colored glasses, you would have thought were just rose-colored. But now you see the red flag around how much of a glitch it is when you do something that's different than what this person is expecting. For example, after one of the dates, this person is asking if you want to romantically stargaze and look for shooting stars. And you say, no, I have to get to bed. I have to wake up early to study or to work or whatever it is. And you recognize the moment where this person feels taken aback, like, oh no, that's not what you were supposed to say. You were cast for the role of love interest. Like, you're supposed to be this manic pixie dream girl who doesn't have a job, who doesn't have responsibilities, who doesn't need to get shut-eye, who's open for any sort of romantic, whimsical outing that I suggest. You calculate within this person's eyes the disconnect around, oh, you're a person with your own dreams and your own responsibilities and your own things to do. And before, you would have just put your own personhood aside in order to play into the fantasy, but you've learned and you stand firm into who it is that you are. And after that incident and other smaller instances, there was no like major break. You just see the connection disintegrate because of your refusal to play a role that is not authentic to you, and having to clearly state the bounds of who it is that you are and defend your position, recognizing how tempting it can be to be absorbed in somebody else's fantasy, to be pulled into somebody else's world, but you have your own world and you're protecting it. You're taking care of it. After those instances that I've detailed, you've had to rebuild your life. You've had to secure your own housing and build your career and build friendships and build a passion project. You've built a world that you don't want to escape from. And you've built the wisdom to know the danger that can occur when you get pulled into somebody else's siren song. Sometimes there's bumpy rocks there. And so while it is a bummer, whenever there's a failed talking stage or something like that, you have won something so much sweeter than any particular romantic relationship could ever offer you. And that is yourself and being in a place within your life in which you are not willing to abandon yourself in the name of love, in the name of connection. And so we will dive more into this astrology with our day-by-day analysis. I just want to remind you that I'm located in California, so please adjust your time zone from PST to whichever time zone you utilize. Without further ado, let's take it into astrology for Monday, February 9th. On Monday, February 9th, we start the week, the Monday, the moon day, with a last quarter moon in Scorpio, which is uncomfortable in many different regards. I say this because we have a lot going on this week in regards to dignity. So currently we have the sun in Aquarius, which is not dignified. The sun, the luminary of ego and identity, much prefers to be in the territory of Leo, around creativity and self-expression and leadership. With sun in Aquarius, it's an amazing placement. I love my Aquarians out there, but we can lose our sense of self in others, whether that's humanity, collective, team, what have you. And the energies are a bit mismatched. And then we look to the moon, who is in Scorpio. That's a position of the moon's fall. The moon much prefers to be in Scorpio's opposite sign, Taurus, which is around food and comfort and things that make us feel soothed. Scorpio is much too deep for the moon's liking. It plunges us deeply into our psyche and our fear and transformation and merging and all of these things that don't ultimately at first glance seem very safe. When moon is around self-soothing and emotional ease, it could be a very intuitive placement, but inherently comfortable, it is not. And as we've been connecting on tomorrow, Venus enters its exaltation. So Venus is entering a position where it is very dignified. So we are able to fully Venus our fullest Venus. And it joins Jupiter, who is also transiting a position of its exaltation. And we love this for them as these are the benefics. So the benefics are very well placed currently, which means that yes, there can be a lot that is transpiring that feels chaotic. Hello, it's eclipse season. That feels uncomfortable. Hello, Saturn is entering its fall. But there is sweetness to be found. There is meaning to be found. We just may need to look for it in the sea of other undignified placements that we're walking through. So we have an undignified showdown between the sun and the moon to start our week with the last quarter moon. So this is a callback to last week's Leo full moon. Let me know how that was. By the way, my goodness, was that full moon not such a looker? If it was clear where it is that you are, let me know if you were able to take a glance at the moon, because you could tell she was in Leo because she was putting on a show. I was utterly transfixed by the moon. I was entranced by the moon. I could not look away. I always moon gaze, but that particular full moon, I could not take my eyes away. So hopefully you were able to see that. But even outside of the aesthetic quality of the full moon energy, we don't even need to look at it to know it's there. It tends to make things feel more heightened and emotional and busy and sometimes frenetic or frazzled. And that full moon was significant as it was our entry point into eclipse season, which we are navigating currently. And now we have a crisis point. So the moon is shedding its light, and to start the week, we have the last quarter moon. So it's a halfway point between that full moon in Leo and next week's solar eclipse in Aquarius, which, P.S., I do have an all signs video on my channel. I will link it below so you can check that out, figure out where it is showing up within your chart, because it's building currently. I'm sure you feel it. And the last quarter moon is around what we are releasing, what we are letting go of, how it is that we are in our lives are transforming into something that we do not yet quite recognize. And something we've been in discussion about this year's astrology altogether with Saturn and Neptune and Aries is the need for courage. And with the moon in Scorpio, having the courage to even face what within your life needs to change or what within your life is changing. And maybe that's you. You know, later on this week, we have the Aquarius sun square Uranus. So even just recognizing the different ways in which you're dating, like in the vibe check, or the different ways that you're showing up within your business, or just how it is that you recognize that you and your life is transforming into something that you do not yet recognize, which can be very scary, especially when you're in the in-between. A lot of times when we're in the in-between is when we feel the most lost, because the scenery of the path that we're on is shifting, where it's like, I haven't been here before. And that could be uncomfortable. And all sorts of emotions can surface. And sometimes there could be this desire to cling to what it is that we've known. But especially when we look at this in reference to Saturn at the aneretic degree, at the final degree of Pisces, and just a recognition of what it is that we've worked and what it is that we've chiseled, there's also a recognition of a choice point around choosing evolution, choosing to let something go that feels toxic, that feels detrimental to you, or just feels so familiar that you know that there's nothing really for you waiting on that path. And when I say this, I'm not saying you have to like force something, you know, with eclipses. The cosmos is doing what it needs to. This is not typically a time that I personally recommend. Feel like you need to get involved or interfere to sort of let things play out. But you just could recognize that there is an energy around letting go of something, perhaps something that felt familiar, maybe letting go of something that was part of your comfort zone, but letting go of it in the name of transformation, in the name of feeling your life transform into something else, and knowing what it looks like to walk down the paths that you've walked down, or to be the person that you've been before. There's like this eager pulling towards the new sides of ourselves that we are excited to meet and connect to, even if it feels very uncomfortable. And that could really be the vibe on Monday. Your emotions could just feel sort of intense. And it is this in-between. And when we're in the in-between, like I said, sometimes we can feel lost when it's like, I don't know what's happening with my life. I don't know what's happening with me. But the invitation is not to go backwards. And sometimes when we're in that in-between, we're panicked because we don't recognize anything. So it's like, let me go back to the last place in which I was not lost. But this is the invitation to keep going and to choose who it is that you're evolving to be and what your life is evolving to be be rather than what it's been, because it's eclipse season. This is divine detour season. This is fated foreshadow season. It is not let's play the same movie over and over again season. And there can be an energy around feeling and internally grappling with what within your life is changing, needs to change. As we talked about last week, last week was all about Uranus. Uranus was the starring role, which Uranus does have a part to play in this week's astrology, certainly, with Sun squaring Uranus. And today, the Scorpio moon does oppose Uranus at 6:16 p.m. PST. So there are some other shifts, shocks, and surprises that may be transpiring here. But there's also an ask to know that it may not feel comfortable now, but it's not always going to feel like this, as well as to be fearless enough to plunge into your own fears, your own desires, your own psyche, because that's where it is that we evolve and transform. Like the vibe check would have gone so much differently had you not taken that time to reflect around, ooh, I'm in a cycle. I keep dating the same person over and over and over again. And I keep just morphing into their lives, merging into their lives over and over again. It's uncomfortable to be alone. And maybe that's why you jump from relationship to relationship. It's uncomfortable to look at ourselves and wonder, what is it that I'm seeking to fill with these other individuals? Why is it that I fall for the love bombing? Like, what is it that I'm really after? Like, that's uncomfortable work to do. That's deep work to do, but it's worthwhile in order to build a life that looks like your own. With Saturn shifting into Aries, Sun squaring Uranus, there's such a focus on identity, and carving the authentic path is the harder path. That's why it's important to befriend challenge and where it shows up in our life, because to carve a path that is really your own requires being challenged. It requires sometimes making people mad. If you're not making anyone mad ever, I would really look at, am I people pleasing? Am I feeling like I need to adhere to other people's guidelines and ideas of who I should be? Like, to carve your own authentic path should entail at least letting some people down. If you're not letting anybody down, you may be on a path that is not your most authentic path. And it's a hard path. There are other paths that are tempting, which is why sometimes, if you're dating someone and they're like, just come into my reality, like, it could be so tempting, because sometimes it's hard to build our passion project. Sometimes it's hard to find our footing materially. Sometimes it's hard to even just define, this is the life that I want to live. It's a lot more enticing sometimes just get pulled and entranced into someone else's siren song. It's the harder path to chart your own course, but it's more worthwhile path to chart your own course and to build a life that truly feels like your own. And it requires you being very honest with yourself, like deep down, being very honest with yourself, not distracting yourself around just the next fancy thing or the next thing. Around deep down, what is it that I really want? Or where is it that my life does not feel like my own? What changes do I want to see, even with the moon opposing Uranus? Let me just reiterate that there's no need to do it all right now. Okay. Eclipse energy is in the air, which sometimes is just like now or never. I need to change everything within my life. Just observe what is coming up. I also want to note here that Venus is currently hovered at the anaretic degree, the final degree of Aquarius. Saturn is also hovered at the anaretic degree of Pisces. And when we have anaretic degree, it gives us energy of urgency. Adding to that, yesterday, Venus squared Uranus, which is change and disruption. So if you feel today like you're like, I need to dump my partner and I need to move to Aruba and I need to get a new job, I'm not saying that you shouldn't live your best life in Aruba, but what I'm saying is let things settle. Honor what's coming up, where you're feeling restless, where your life is not feeling like your own. But this is not the astrology to force it or to rush it. Observe it. Notice that it's there. Notice when it is you feel yourself shift into a mold or shift into a role that is not your own. There is an ask this week to really inhabit yourself, to really embody yourself, which is why in the vibe check, there was like this work around really embodying, being there on the date. Like some of us have a tendency to leave the building, like literally to abandon ourselves, to not be there, to completely play into the other person. And the best way that you can attract things that are really meant for you is to be you. And that means like holding firm within even your own preferences, your own desires, your own wants, your own needs, and to witness where it is that you leave the building and to come back. Come back. So my encouragement would be notice when you leave the building and pull yourself back, because it's not saying if we notice that we are masking or playing a role around someone that we need to dump them or have a friendship breakup right now. Like Uranus energy could sort of be a little restless in that way, but just notice it and see if the dynamic can exist with you fully inhabiting yourself around, actually, I'd rather do this, or actually, what do you think about this? Or actually, here's what I think about what you just said. Observing if this connection can grow with you, evolve with you. So Monday is tinged with some intense emotions. We have that moon opposing Uranus energy, so you could feel a little restless in the evening time. My encouragement would be with the Scorpio moon trining Saturn in Pisces, do things that ground you. Like, yes, you could feel like your life is in a bit of liminal space, or that you are in the space of transition, you are in the space of evolution, but really strive to do whatever you can in order to be here now, to ground here now, to soothe here now. The Scorpio moon squares Venus in Aquarius. And to that I say, stay off of online shopping. Go to bed, don't online shop. Venus at the inner degree sometimes gives that energy of urgency, which, yes, can show up around love and connection, but also around money. And this could be an energy around distracting ourselves from uncomfortable emotions via shopping with the energy of Venus, or even via food or something like this. Wait for Venus to enter its exaltation tomorrow, okay? You're going to get a better deal. You're going to find better things for whatever it is that you want to purchase. And especially don't purchase anything trying to avoid the uncomfortable feeling. With the energy of moon trining Saturn, seek to ground yourself and nourish yourself in sustainable, solid ways. And the moon will enter Sagittarius at 11:22 p.m. PST. So now that we have gone deep with the Scorpio moon, now it's time to explore wide with the Sagittarius moon, looking for meaning, looking for adventure, looking for connection to something bigger than ourselves. On Tuesday, February 10th, today is a glorious day, because Venus from around 2:30 a.m. PST onward is now positioned gloriously, heavenly, really. Venus now shifts into Pisces. And so, as I highlighted, this is a dignified position. So Venusian matters could feel like they are flowing with relative ease at this time. You could feel more romantic at this time, more connected to love, more likely to see the best in those around you, more in love to fall in love multiple times a day, more inclined to really romanticize everything within your life, romanticizing getting ready and making your coffee and going for your walks, more inclined to manifest money or spend more money on spiritual items or spiritual services. And with Venus and Pisces, there's a strong desire to feel very connected to source, to feel very connected to spirit, to feel very connected to God, the divine, whatever it is that you define it as. And to strive to see the beauty within this human experience, to see the divinity in those around you. Like, that's what I truly feel like it means to fall in love. Not that this is Haley waxes poetically about love for an hour and a half at the cosmic corner of the internet. That's not what this show is at all. But I think ultimately the highest octave of love, the highest form of love, is seeing the God in someone, seeing the divinity in someone, having love and connection that makes you see the divinity in everything that is transpiring. The most pure, unconditional, selfless love is spiritual love. And like we talked about earlier, I don't think romantic love is a worthwhile way to funnel unconditional, pure, selfless love. Like, I think we do need self. With Saturn and Aries, we cannot abandon ourselves in the name of losing ourselves in another human. But ultimately, any form of love, platonic, romantic, pet, nature, what have you, it makes you feel more connected to your soul and to your spirit and to this experience altogether. And sometimes when we feel disconnected from source energy, we feel disconnected from our purpose and our calling. We will find our purpose and our calling in other individuals. We will strive to worship and devote ourselves to whomever the object of affection is. And if you relate to any part of this week's vibe check, my biggest encouragement would be the more you can feel connected to your soul and your spiritual connection, the more protected you will be within this plane, because it is not safe for you to make your God other humans. It is not safe for you to lose yourself in another. It is not even safe to be unconditional in your devotion and your selfless love to another human that is not your child. Like, that is not a safe, self-honoring thing to do. And the more that you are devoted to something that feels bigger than yourself, whether that's a passion project, whether that's a connection to the divine, having some sort of outlet to pour your love and devotion in protects you. Because when you recognize that a situation like this comes up where you know you could lose yourself and there might be rocks and the siren song may lead to a shipwreck, or 3, you are protected, because it's like, I can't get lured into your siren song. I gotta wake up to go volunteer tomorrow. I can't be lured into your siren song. I gotta sit down and film. It's like, when you are connected to something that's bigger than yourself, you recognize that it's bigger than you. Thus, if you get pulled off course into siren songs that you were never meant to be in, like, that's detrimental, not just for you, but for your calling, but for your purpose. It kind of brings you into the space of being protective of that. And I genuinely am of the belief that any connection that is truly for you, that is sent from the divine, will not thwart you from your life mission, will not thwart you from your calling. Like, those will be people who support your calling. They'll give you strawberry sauce and strawberry syrup and strawberry puree for your Magic Monday. Again, that's a very mundane, innocuous way. But I think the more that you are really devoted to something, whether it's your artistry, passion project, whatever it is, the more you're devoted to that, the more that you will attract things that are devoted to you in order for you to be devoted to that. If that makes sense, especially if you have a tendency around losing yourself in another, making other people a god to you. Like, it always sticks with me. You all know I'm obsessed with tarot lately. Within the Lover's card, it always sticks with me how he is looking at her and she's looking up to the heavens. Like, for me, that's how my personal love life has operated best, is when I am more so focused on my own spiritual path and my own calling and my own purpose, the right people are drawn into my orbit. It's never good when I'm trying to find my purpose and calling in somebody else, because it's just a human. They're not a purpose. They're not a calling. And like I said earlier, I don't mean to limit our discussion to just heterosexual love, just to romantic love, but I just think Venus in Pisces signifies that very nature, that love is something spiritual. I mean, this is Venus, the planet of love's favorite position, a very spiritual side. Love is spiritual. Love should make you feel more connected to your purpose. Love should make you feel like you have more to pour out to the world at large. Like, I just think of certain experiences when I wasn't in my lover's tarot bag, when I didn't have my eyes set on God and the divine and my connection to the cosmos. Like, I just think of how those connections really siphoned from me, so much so that I had nothing to pour into anything else within my life. And that's not love. Love shows up in overflow. You know, Venus is now an exaltation. Jupiter is an exaltation, both in water signs. You know, love is something that helps you pour over into other arenas of life. It's not something that siphons from you and drains you and depletes you until you are a shell of a human. And when we think about other elements of Venus, Venus is also beauty, which can be something very spiritual. I know some people tend to think of beauty and fashion and makeup as something very vain, but there is a spiritual element to it. Like, there is something very spiritual around cleanliness, beauty, order, even like adorning yourself can all be tinged with this spiritual signification, so long as you add that intentionality to it. So my encouragement today and the entire time with Venus and Pisces is make getting ready an event. It's not just putting on your clothes. It's really stepping into who you're going to be that day, your higher self, or the sort of dramatic, imaginative sort of energy you're wanting to embody in that day. You know, enchant your makeup brushes, put on perfume, like make little things a big deal. Because I think when we plug into our spiritual awareness and how this human experience is finite, we strive to decorate this experience, to see the beauty in it wherever we can grab moments of beauty, to see the loveliness in it, to see the divinity within those magic moments of your cat basking in the sun or the tree leaves dancing against the blue sky. Like, there is so much ugliness to this human experience, certainly, but there is so much beauty as well when you really see the divinity, the God that is all around us, the beauty that's all around us. And we are to Tuesday, and I have completed my drink. That's got to be a record. But that was absolutely delightful. And on Tuesday, the moon is in Sagittarius all day long. The Sagittarius moon does trine Neptune in Aries shortly after midnight. So you can have very enchanting dreams. You could have really gone somewhere. Sagittarius moon's always on the move with the trine to Neptune. You in the astral realm could have really adventured somewhere. Maybe in the morning, remember to call yourself back. Perhaps could be impactful, as well as eclipses. Like I said, there is an enhanced level of significance now. So I would write down dreams. I would write down ideas. Look out at your world around. What if nothing was coincidental? What if everything was purposeful? What if everything was foreshadowing where the TV show of my life is taking me next? And I don't mean that where you need to spiral and obsess about every little thing, but just observe. That's so interesting that this person popped up in my dream. That's so interesting that I heard from this person. That's so interesting that I went on a date with this person. And I don't mean that like in the vibe check, that was not the love of your life. Like I don't mean that in terms of everybody who comes in, it's like, you're going to be my life partner. You're going to be my best friend for the rest of my life. Sometimes fated events show up to be that choice point around the universe saying, are you going to do this again? Sometimes they come up for us to have certain recognitions about ourselves. Sometimes they come up to even elicit certain ideas. Like people sometimes come into our field in order to be amused, to kind of signal us into the next chapter of our life. So not everything needs to be forever for us to be a worthwhile fated connection. So just looking out your world through that lens. And with Venus in Pisces, Venus is the planet of sweetness. And so yes, we could crave more sweets with Venus in exaltation, or take that moment to really add the syrup to our pancakes and see the beauty in it and really indulge and enjoy it. But be sweet to other humans, like pay genuine compliments, like look people in the eye, buy someone flowers, buy yourself flowers, like really just strive to be that pouring well of love with Venus and Pisces. The Sag moon will sextile Pluto in Aquarius, which does bring a bit of regeneration. There's elements of this vibe check where you could have gotten your feelings really hurt. When we think of having Mercury in Pisces, currently Venus in Pisces, these are sensitive energies. And sometimes we get our feelings hurt when we stand firmly in who we are with Saturn and Aries. And that very decision to stand firmly in who we are leads to the disintegration of a relationship, of a connection. Sometimes it can bring a little bit of a blow to the ego around, oh, you don't like me? And that's where it gets really essential to really keep your eyes focused on the divine or anything that feels otherworldly, feels connected to something bigger than you, because then you stop striving to find validation from mortals. You stop trying to be liked by everybody. You start following your North Star. And part of following your North Star will mean being disliked, being judged. But the energy of the Sag moon sextile Pluto is like the energy of a shrug around, oh, you didn't like me? Okay, we'll keep moving. I met you on the app. I can meet somebody else on the app. If it was meant to be, it would have been. It doesn't mean that it doesn't suck. Tomorrow we have Sun sextile Chiron. Chiron energy is always going to bring it like, you didn't like me? You didn't choose me? But it's like, we keep it moving, right? And there's just a soft recognition of that with the moon sextile Pluto. I also want to highlight that tonight, the Sagittarius moon will square Mercury in Pisces at 1:02 p.m. So as I highlighted, we could feel a little sensitive with the Pisces energy. We could also be feeling very misunderstood, or we could be misunderstanding. Definitely, keep in mind, Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow from tomorrow onward. And with Mercury in Pisces, it's reading a lot of the subtext and the nuance, where this love interest in the vibe check, it's like they weren't really listening to what you were saying because it's hard to really hear you over the symphony that they're playing for you. Sometimes the downside of Pisces energy is that it idealizes, it puts things on pedestals, and it utilizes this very artistic energy. All as Pisces can be very artistic and very creative. It utilizes that to project art on this person, where it's like they might have some ideas of who you are, but then they project or make up the other ones. And that's where we have that kind of cognitive dissonance in the vibe check, where it's like you're saying things that are very you, but it's a departure of who this person built you up to be or designed you to be. So sometimes people do not hear you because they've already decided your story or projected your story. And there just could be an element around feeling a bit misunderstood. Like Sagittarius moon, ultimately, we want to follow our own arrow. We want to follow our own truth. And with the moon square Mercury in Pisces, it could be like, you're not hearing me. You're just hearing what you want to hear, or you're not really learning about me. You've decided who I am already. There can just be some of those uncomfortable emotions, as well as the recognition. Do I say the hard thing or do I run from it. Sagittarius moon likes to keep it moving. Mercury in Pisces likes to swim away from the truth. So there can be this energy around, do I say this or do I just avoid it and escape it? On Wednesday, February 11th at 5:47 p.m. PST, the Aquarius sun will sextile Chiron in Aries. Keep in mind, the sun is not dignified currently, so it's not sitting very favorably. But even with that, there is a bit of a healing balm. Feels like an energy around recognizing I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Some people will think I'm weird. Some people will think I'm to this or not enough of this, and that's okay. It's just like a soft recognition of your own weirdness, of your own quirks, of your own nuances, and potentially feeling some sort of lack of belonging. Ultimately, there is a desire for belonging, whether that's by way of community or friendship or just humanity altogether. There can be a little bit of an ouch around not really feeling like you have that full sense of belonging, but also like a recognition around that's okay. Sometimes we have a different lease on life and a different approach as it relates to our deficiencies or where it is that we don't fit in, when we recognize how that makes us perfectly fit for whatever it is that we feel like our calling is, our higher level of fulfillment. And also creativity can be something very healing this week. Pisces energy, as I highlighted, tends to be very imaginative, very creative, because it's such a sensitive sign that sometimes when you feel so deeply and you feel so much, you want to do something with it. Venus, the planet of artistry and beauty, is now exalted. So I want to take all of these emotions and make it something beautiful. And even knowing that so much art was really created through pain a lot of times. And sometimes when you can create something beautiful, even from something painful, it gives it purpose. It gives it beauty, even in some instances. And so with the energy of Sun sextile Chiron, there's a recognition where it is that we don't fit in, where we feel like we don't belong, but also feeling something healing around expressing yourself, being your own person, letting your freak flag fly, very Aquarius season. The moon is in Sagittarius all day long. It sextiles Mars in Aquarius in the morning time. So maybe very optimal for a workout class to move your body, to even set off for some sort of challenge. Again, the more that we could befriend challenge, the easier time we're going to have with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, because good things will not come easily with Saturn in Aries, or immediately, I should say. There may be an energy around having to chisel it and to fall in love with that process of being challenged, knowing that every new level of our life will challenge us in some sort of way. So where is it that we can fall in love with the process of getting better at something? Like, think about going to a workout class where you feel like you were not challenged at all. You're like, did I even break a sweat? You're kind of like, why did I even go there? We go to be challenged in some way, to push ourselves, to unlock more of ourselves. And same goes as it relates to artistry and business. There should be some level of challenge involved. We should not feel like we're sleepwalking through it. Right? Saturn and Neptune are leaving Pisces, okay? We're waking up and we're falling in love with the process of getting better at something, would be the energy of the Sag moon, sextile Mars, or even shooting your shot. Something that I've been chiseling now that Neptune's in Aries, Saturn soon to join, is following my instincts. Like, if I get a certain nudge to do something, I do it right away. I've been really working on that muscle around following my instincts and acting on it, which is going to be important as it relates to the transits we're stepping into. More on that in the most recent More Magic episode. Just a heads up, if you don't typically listen to Magic Monday via podcast form, I just want to let you know that a new More Magic episode was conjured on the podcast. These are infrequent episodes on various astrological topics that is exclusively available via podcast format. And I just dropped one on 2026's astrology, how it is that you can thrive and co-create with it. So you can go check that out on the Magic Monday podcast. My goal is to do one more magic podcast episode a month, although I have ideas to do 4 more within the next couple of days. So we'll see, but check that out, because I talk a lot about the astrology and how it is that you can thrive with this astrology. And a huge chunk of it is following your instincts, owning who it is that you are. That's relevant today with the Aquarius sun and the Sag moon. And the Sag moon will trine Chiron in Aries at 10:28 p.m. Also sextiling the sun, because we had the sun sextile Chiron today, which is the energy around following your own path, Following your own arrow, pursuing your own truth will mean feeling alienated sometimes, feeling like an outcast, feeling weird, feeling different. But chiseling our own authentic path, there is a price to pay for it. But it is one of adventure. It is one of meaning with the Sagittarius moon. And so while there can be little ouches that come up on Wednesday, like feeling like our ego is a little bruised, there's also an energy around keeping it moving anyway. It's really the vibe. Like, it just feels to me like a shrug. And not a shrug like in a nonchalant way, but more so a shrug like, that sucks. Anyways, on to the next adventure, on to the next thing. Oh, they didn't like it? Okay. Oh, they don't get it? Okay. Oh, that was my person? Okay. Gotta keep it moving. There's too much to explore. There's too much to do. There's too much to grow into, to be too hung up on what didn't work out or wasn't a fit, or what me being my authentic person made me not a candidate for. You don't want to be a candidate for anything that requires you to abandon yourself in order to keep it. I also want to mention that today is the day that Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow. And so what that means is that things are going to get a little Mercury retrograde-y around here. That could be technical difficulties, that can be miscommunications, that can be you reading into things that are not there, that could be people not reading into things that you clearly were hinting at. Like, there could just be some confusion around communication at this time, so proceed with caution. On Thursday, February 12th, I have to be forthright and tell you that the astrology is a little hard, but it does have a sweet ending. So let's get into it. So we start the day with the moon in Sagittarius. It squares Saturn in Pisces at 11:29 a.m. PST, which feels like a little bit of a crestfallen energy. It feels like a little bit of feeling let down, feels like feeling a little bit tired. You could feel like your freedom is very limited by your responsibilities, by what is on your plate, by what it is that you have to do or handle. You could just be in an energy around, I don't want to do A, B, and C. I want to adventure and explore and be free. I don't want to do my taxes. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to this meeting. But then the moon enters Capricorn at 11:44 a.m., which is the energy around, but I gotta. I don't wanna, but I gotta. Sometimes life is lifey in that regard. And the Capricorn moon will square off with Neptune midday. So you could be feeling very drained, exhausted, kind of in your own world, kind of lost in the sauce of your own fantasy. Or there could be a recognition around, this is not worth the hype. This is not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what it was told and sold to be. With the Venus in Pisces, we can romanticize and idealize anything. We can place a meaning on anything. We could think, this purse that I'm going to buy is going to change my life. This person that I'm meeting is going to change my life. And things are rarely as good as we crack them up to be within our fantasy. And so there could be an energy around feeling a little bit of letdown around that midday in whichever arena, or even around a certain career height or goal. There could be an energy around, I thought this was going to feel euphoric. I thought this was going to solve everything. It's considered that it takes 3 months for us to adjust to the new normal of anything that we desire. And again, it's good to challenge ourselves and go after things, but nothing is going to fix it eternally. Like 3 months is all that it takes for us to get used to that raise, that relationship, that new home, whatever it is. And it's not to say it won't be something that we don't continue to have gratitude for. It's just that 3 months, that becomes our new normal, and it's no longer giving us the same brain chemicals that it did before. So there could be an energy of a little bit of disillusionment around, I thought this was going to feel differently. This goal, this success, this job, I thought it was going to feel differently. Like you could feel like the allure is fading in some sort of way. And the Capricorn moon will sextile Venus in Pisces later that day, which can be doing something lovely in order to soothe what could have been a long, busy day, or just doing something that makes life worth living. Sometimes with the moon in Capricorn, this is a position that the moon is not dignified in. There's so many interesting dignity stories this week. And so with the energy of moon in Capricorn, sometimes we seek to soothe ourselves or make ourselves happy through work and achievement and responsibility, which it's beautiful to find meaning and purpose in what you do. But there also could be an element around taking things to heart, being very sensitive, finding it hard to walk away, to stop working. Neptune energy can blur the bounds of things. My encouragement would be when this aspect exacts at 6:23 p.m., make sure you eat a delicious meal, light a candle. Venus is exalted. After all, maybe read a nice fantasy book, get lost in a good TV show, do things that make life worth living. It's important to also recognize how far you've come. Like I said, that hedonic treadmill where we just want more. Sometimes it's helpful to recognize how far that you have genuinely come. and to like really be grateful for how far you've come, to cheerlead yourself for how far you've come. Maybe that shows up around responsibilities and accomplishments and all of this, but also the soul work. I want to mention that because tomorrow Saturn shifts into Aries, and that means that Saturn is departing Pisces for the next like 3 or so decades. Like we are wrapping up the Saturn Pisces story for a long time. And so it's thinking back to who you were when Saturn first stepped into Pisces in March 2023 and how far you've come. And maybe some of those accomplishments are visible. Maybe some people were applauding and clapping and cheering, and maybe some were more personal. Maybe it's what it is that you've overcame. Maybe it's just how freaking hard it was and how you survived. Like I would just definitely say, remember how far you have come and how much you've chiseled, just as we pass the baton to the new story that's initiating Saturn and Aries on Friday, February 13th. Headline news: Saturn enters Aries. This is big, and this will be a constant in the cosmos until 2028, which means if you join me here in the cosmic corner of the internet every Sunday, which I'm so grateful if you do, that means we will be talking about Saturn and Aries until 2028. Like it is a cosmic constant from this point onward. So get comfy. As comfy as we can get when Saturn's not comfy. And there's so much to say about this particular transit. I do want to highlight, I did a Saturn and Aries deep dive. I talk about Saturn return in Aries. I talk about Saturn and Aries through all the houses. You'll want to check that out below. I will link it. But what I want to say here is that with Saturn and Aries, it's going to be important to define ourselves, to stand in who it is that we are, and to take radical accountability over every element of our life. Where within the vibe check, the protagonist could have defaulted all of the blame to the love interest around, well, yeah, of course A, B, and C happened. That person was like this, and that person was the worst, and that other person was the worst. Like it's them, it's not a me thing. But at a certain point, you have to acknowledge when something is a you thing. Like Saturn in Aries is going to be very powerful so long as you take responsibility over your life. If you evade blame, if you point the finger at other people, they're the problem, this transit is going to be very tricky because it is requiring a higher level of accountability, a higher level of responsibility over our life. Our wins, our losses, they're all our own. And just recognizing, especially if we're in some sort of cycle, like recognizing the part that we play in it. It's not to say that some of your love interests were not the spawn of Satan. Like no one's saying that. Okay, maybe they were. But it's making sure that you take the lesson from it so that you get more favorable results within your life. Like sometimes it's uncomfortable to take such responsibility over our life. It's a lot easier to make other people the problem or the world at large the problem. And it's not to say that people are not trash sometimes, and this world is not hard, but the energy of Saturn and Aries is like, toughen up, buttercup, is the vibe. And so it's Saturn and Aries. If it is to be, it is up to me. And again, we can have all of the nuance and the context around, well, this held me back from this, and this person did this. And it's not saying that those things aren't valid, but Saturn and Aries is like, yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? And that's hard. That is hard to do. You know how uncomfortable it is to take full accountability over your life, to take full responsibility over your life, to claim your wins and your losses all together, and to recognize that this life is yours, so it's your responsibility to make your own. Ooh, that's hard. It could be a lot more tempting to just want to hitchhike into somebody else's path or absorb yourself into their identity. It's very hard to own who it is that you are and commit yourself to getting what it is that you desire out of this experience. But it's what we're being asked to do. I definitely think with Saturn Aries, it's going to be a transit where we're going to see individuals less enticed by authority and tradition and the way things are done. And I do genuinely feel like with Saturn and Aries that sometimes limitation can spark innovation. Aries energy really lends itself to initiation and starting things, but you have to sustain things with Saturn and Aries, as well as knowing that sometimes the hard circumstances of our life prompt new and different strategies and tactics. So looking out for that. And I do want to give a congratulations to anyone who has a very mutable chart, who's been working like this with Saturn in Pisces. Anyone who has their Saturn return in Pisces, congratulations, my loves. And now for anyone who has strong cardinal placements or are stepping into their Saturn return in Aries, now the focus is shifting there. We all have a Saturn story. We all have a Saturn race that we are running, but for some of us, it's much more instrumental. It's much more pivotal. And as someone who is both mutable dominant as well as wrapping up my Saturn return, I have so much to say on this, so much so that you can get a full podcast episode on More Magic. I'm planning on dropping the More Magic episodes on Thursdays, Jupiter's days. So by the time of you listening to this on Friday the 13th, it should be there and available for you to listen to if you want to deep dive, because it's really too much for me to say here. But what I want to highlight is that while the past couple of years have changed me, they've solidified me. Like Saturn is harsh and tough, but it's like running a race and then having the runner's high, right? Or running the race and then being fitter after. Like it does bestow rewards. And the rewards are even more satisfying because you worked so hard for them. And we don't always appreciate something when we get it right away, when we're handed it right away, when we don't work for it, when we take a shortcut for it. There is a particular form of reward when we really endure and we stick with something, as well as when we learn from experience. And Saturn experiences sometimes are a little harsh, but they certainly teach you a lot. So make sure to check out that podcast episode if you want to deep dive into my experience with that. Make sure to check out Saturn Aries All Signs video to tune into the experience that you are likely to step into until 2028. Speaking of Saturn, the moon is in Saturn ruled sign Capricorn all day. It does sextile Mercury in Pisces around 10 a.m., which reminds me, and it's actually funny and appropriate for the astrology that I forgot that Mercury is also not dignified right now. I knew I was missing one planet in our conversation on dignity. You know, some of you could have some of those moments where you're a little forgetful. That's very Mercury in Pisces and its pre-retrograde shadows, being a little bit spacey, a little bit dreamy, a little bit forgetful, whether it's around certain items or did I actually send that email or did I dream it? Like you can have a little bit of that. So I would definitely say write things down, double check things with that. But with moon sextile Mercury, there can be a grounded yet compassionate approach to communication today. The Capricorn moon does oppose Jupiter in Cancer around 7:28 p.m. PST, which can create a little bit of excess, going overboard. I want to highlight that we are in the waning crescent moon as we prepare for next week's solar eclipse in Aquarius. So you may find that by all means, have your Valentine's Day plans, but a lot of times this is a lunar phase that is more concerned with introspecting. It's a little bit more of a hermit energy around wanting to come inward to seek knowledge from within. So maybe you are your own Valentine, or you're just craving to do things with your Valentine that are a little bit more low key. Sometimes eclipses can be a little intense, a little chaotic, a little all over the place. So you might just be feeling the collective's energy and like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in. Things are a little much right now. On Saturday, February 14th, the Capricorn moon will square Chiron in Aries at 9:42 a.m. PST. So please do not compare yourself and your life to what you see from others. Like, I just feel like this energy is in the morning time. You could log on social media and see all of these people get these like enormous bouquets of flowers, then feeling personally not good enough because it's like, why did I not get an enormous bouquet of flowers? Or like seeing somebody has their Valentine who bought them a car and it's like, why didn't my Valentine get a car? You know, comparison is the thief of joy. Genuinely, comparison is the thief of joy. And there just feels to be an energy around, why not me? With the Capricorn moon squaring Chiron, why not me? And just with that layered with Valentine's Day, do not compare your real life to other people's highlight reels or what they put out there or their vision of success that they put out there. It's just a recipe to feel discouraged and to feel disappointed with your real life. And my encouragement would be to do gratitude practice. If you know that this holiday and what it sometimes represents, like, can sometimes be like triggering for you, I just recommend don't be on social media. It's just a day. It's just a day. Or celebrate it Haley Comet style. I have not once ever let being in a relationship or not take away from my Valentine's Day. I've always thrived. Every single Valentine's Day, I always have the best day ever, regardless of who my Valentine was. I was always my own Valentine. Like, I've always just thought of this day as a day to do really sweet and loving things for those that I love, as well as to do sweet and loving things for myself, because I love myself. So take on that approach if that aligns for you. But if you just want to ignore that this is a holiday altogether, you know, it is Aquarius season, which is around around being your own person. So you don't need to do what other people say you should do or what capitalism says what love should look like. Like you could just make it your own thing, especially with the Aquarius sun squaring Uranus. The Capricorn moon trines Uranus in Taurus at 5:31 p.m. PST. So if you are celebrating the holiday, really lovely opportunity for like a really great bottle of wine or like a really delicious meal. Like Capricorn moon likes the finer things of life. With the trine of Uranus, it might be something new. You might try a new omakase restaurant or order something outside of what you typically order, but it might be divine. And even if it's not divine, you know, the moon enters Aquarius at 10:17 p.m. PST, at least it's new. At least it's different. And with the Aquarius moon, there can be a focus on friendship, community, as well as feeling connected to humans at large. The Aquarius moon sextiles Saturn and Neptune, who are building to conjoin in Aries. I want to let you know that on my YouTube channel, the Saturn and Neptune in Aries all signs video is now available. That went live yesterday, Friday, February 13th. So check that out. I've been filming so much and creating all sorts of content as there's so much astrology that we are stepping into. But really with tonight, with the Aquarius moon, sextile Saturn and sextile Neptune, it's honoring the uniqueness of your own path, of your own dreams, of your own friend group, or even just like the individuals who feel like-minded. On Sunday, February 15th, I want to highlight that at 6:15 a.m., the Aquarius moon aligns with Pluto. So you could feel some emotions of doom and despair. It can be anxiety. It can be fear of the future. It can be intensity. It could also just be this looming fear that something is going to happen or something like this. There just could be kind of an anxious vibe today. Later on today, the sun in Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus, which adds to that. So there could have been something unexpected that you were not anticipating that kind of threw off your center. Keep in mind, we're building to an eclipse next week, which tends to like rampen up the collective energy altogether. So you can feel an energy of anxiety showing up. And my encouragement would be to do whatever possible to ground yourself. When we look at the cosmos, as I noted, we have Venus and Jupiter exalted, Sun, Mercury, and Saturn not dignified. And then really not a lot of Earth is earthing right now. And when we don't have Earth element in the cosmos, sometimes we can struggle to find our footing or to feel grounded. And so it's going to be important, regardless of what's changing in your life, whether it's big things or small things, it's important to strive to find your footing, to ground down into what is showing up, as well as to remember that you are an active participant within your life and you can shake up the narrative of what other people expect you to be at any moment in time. You know, sometimes people will assume certain things about you. Sometimes we even play into what fantasy people are projecting us to be or who people have built us up to be. And you are well within your right at any moment in time to be like, yeah, not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not that person. I'm not running away with you. And to stay rooted in who you are and to know that some people think that you're weird for that or unique for that, or they'll say that you're the worst for that, but it's your life to lead. It's your life to live. And so it's important to stay grounded in who it is that you are, would be my encouragement here, as well as know that change is a constant. You know, with Sun square Uranus, there could be occurrences that sort of take the wind out of you around what? I was not foreseeing that. I was not expecting that. Who did what with who? Like there just could be certain things that it's like record scratch. What? You might even be the record scratch and somebody else's where they're like, wait, you're not going to run away with me? And you're not my manic pixie dream girl who wants to stargaze with me all night? You have responsibilities? You have a life to attend to? What? You're not just an extension of me and who I've built you up to be. And you could even feel that within yourself, a random unexpected idea, a random awareness of how it is that you've been showing up and how you desire to show up differently. It's important to give ourselves permission to change. It's important to give our lives permission to change. It's important to give this experience the permission to change. It's important to acknowledge who you are in this courtship. It's not the same as who you've been before, and to really train yourself to see change as a good thing. You know, I go into more depth on this in the Aquarius solar eclipse video, but we all want the world to change. And what's going to be important with Saturn Aries is to take responsibility for our part in it and to embody the change that we want to see, as well as to acknowledge our comfort zone, where it is that we've been complacent, where it is that we've been stagnant, where it is that we've been making other people the problem around, I'll do this as soon as A, B, and C, or they made me do that. Like with Saturn and Aries, it's like taking responsibility, and with Sun squaring Uranus, changing yourself because you have been so fiercely honest about yourself and around the cycles that you're purposefully disrupting. So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I honor my destiny, my divinity, and my design. This week's astrology is interesting, just with Venus entering Pisces, Saturn leaving Pisces, moving into Aries, as Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So we are really wrapping up a massive cycle and stepping into a brand new one. And when we think about Pisces, it is the sign of spirit and soul, where it is that self dissolves into something bigger than self. And Aries is around staying rooted in self. And this week is the recognition how those actually blend together. How when we remember who it is that we are, the soul that we are, our purpose, our calling, our something more, that supports us in stepping into all that we were here to be and embracing our authenticity, staying integral with who it is that we are, so much so that we will make a stink if we find that someone is miscasting us, misunderstanding us, or taking advantage of us. Like Saturn and Aries is around, no, not me. You got the wrong idea. That's not me. I'm not running away with you. I've got this and that. Or I actually want something different from my life, and I'm allowed to advocate for myself or stand up for who it is I am because it's bigger than me. Like when you realize that spirit source energy is backing you and that you were designed intentionally, you have a lot more courage to follow what you are here to do, as well as to disrupt what you are not here to do around, that's not me. That's not what I'm here for. The more I play into your role of who you think I should be, the less space I have available to do what I'm actually here to do. So this week asks us to embrace our destiny, embrace our divinity, embrace our design, and recognize how they're all embodied all together. So my loves, that is our week. If you made it to the end of the forecast, go ahead and comment below a strawberry to shout out my delightful strawberry white mocha. Deeply recommend if you happen to have white mocha, strawberry, espresso, almond milk, ice. It was delightful. I would love to know what you all think about Saturn entering Aries. Did you notice anything last year from late May to early September? Was that an easier time for you? Was that a joyful time for you, or excited for that energy to come back around? Really curious to know. Please let me know below. If you're able to, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the pod, the YouTube channel, wherever it is that you are listening. My Instagram handle is at Haley Comet Astrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, stay magical.